Smart 24, driving business.
Yes, we'll be back exactly 4 minutes to the top of the hour. That is of 9 a.m. And this is Smart Means Business. Now we're heading straight into our business insight. And we have a very interesting discussion that we shall be taking a look at. And this is in line with the small businesses in Uganda, the promise and peril of growth. Now, as we see that small-scale enterprises in Uganda form the backbone of the nation's economy, representing a staggering 93.5% of the over 1.1 million private sector enterprises. Despite their prevalence, the potential, these businesses often operate on thin margins. That is grappling with structure and financial challenges that hinder their growth and sustainability. Now, the recent initiatives by professional bodies such as the National Accountants Association, they actually promise a lifeline. However, the underlying systematic issues and gaps in policy raise critical questions that is about the long-term viability of these interventions. Now, according to the auditor's pledge, the offer to provide free auditing services to small businesses contingent on their formation of corporation groups is undeniably a step in the right direction. Now, accurate financial auditing is actually essential for business to secure funding, ensure compliancy, and manage youth. Yet, the feasibility of this initiative raises questions still. But many small businesses lack the organizational structure to form or sustain these required groups. Now, a case from the Mbali illustrates this challenge, where we see a group of 20 bakery owners attempted to pool resources and engage a professional auditor. However, the internal disagreements and lack of trust led to the group's dissolution within months. And without addressing these social culture barriers, the initiative risks becoming yet another well-intentioned but underutilized resource. So, how do you see that, Valda? If you take a look at now, I mean, auditing for small and intermediary enterprises, you know, in most cases, SMEs operate informally here in Uganda and Africa, because the biggest market is largely dominated by SMEs, but they are all informal. How informal? They don't have proper accounting. When you take a look at the structure of appointing, recruiting staff, it's all not really on paper. Okay. And to you, what, from your opinion, what does this really pose for this country?
Thank you so much, Andrew. And in my opinion, of course, it does pose a very big challenge, given that this sector alone contributes at least 93.5% of the 1.1 private sector enterprises. Yeah. That means that predominantly or largely, Uganda's economy is made up of small-scale industries. And when we look at the insurance policies, right, or what would lead most of these companies to be insured or move them towards that. That is exactly why the National Accountants Association is helping, right, to help in editing in order to be able to help us reach there. And if we are to compare to, let's just take it back a little bit to Independence Day that was recently celebrating, and we're comparing Uganda's economy to that of Singapore, because in 1962 we were at the same level, right? When we look at the question or the issue posed by the lack of auditing, it is very largely influential or very impactful negatively to the small-scale industries, in a way that it limits us when it comes to small industries, when it comes to getting these financial resources, for example. It is hard for small businesses to sign out these loans in order to sustain their living because they do not have enough of the information required by the banks in order to secure this this money, as well as to the collateral damage. They also don't have it, the small businesses. That is why when we look at just the insurance penetration in Uganda alone, it's 0.84% compared to that of India. Now, when we weigh these two countries, India is not very far in growth to Uganda. But the fact that our insurance policy in small-scale businesses is very low, that means that like I said earlier, in case also of losses, we cannot be able to recover. And in this article, they looked at an example of the Nachivubo fires, where people lost over 30 million Ugandan shillings, right? Due to lack of auditing information, among others, we see that the people in this who are involved in this fire were not able to have any sort of compensation from insurance companies when it comes to all the losses and damages that were incurred during the fires, right? And of course, that is going to pose as a big challenge, because at the end of the day, we see that only probably around 20% of small-scale industries or businesses are able to sustain their living. That is why most of them drop out along the way. So the challenge of auditing is not, when you look at it at a surface level, it is really small. But when you look at it in a broader picture, or the causes of what lack of auditing could impact on a farm, it is really big, because right now, most of the things are based on the audit paperwork.
Very true.
Right? Even when it comes down to things like taxes, how much a company should be taxed. For example, those who are importing. And if a company is lacking these things, they're not going to be able to just put themselves out there, even joining the groups that they need to join. For example, Private Sector Foundation Uganda, PSFU. You can't be able to join this community if you're not fully registered, right? Whereby you earlier said that most of these organizations, they lack just organizational structure, and those are some of the things that are required by these bigger entities in order to be able to reach a helping hand to the small-scale industries. So I think a lot of focus should be directed towards small-scale industries, because if they continuously grow, we shall be able to fight things like unbalanced regional development, right?
Very true.
You see small-scale industries in areas, in rural areas, but there is no support towards them in terms of this. Some of them don't even know what auditing means, just to start there, right? They don't even know how impactful it is going to be to their businesses, or just to how it is going to help them grow, right?
But how is it going to help them grow?
It is going to help them grow in a number of ways.
Because now, because the challenge is that most of the times, I think like, okay, some of the foreign Western related policies, when we interpret them from the mind of the inventor, you will find that they weren't designed to favor the developing world. So, if I may pose it, why do you think it would be necessary? Because if you take a look at Africa's system, from the justice system, talking about the tax authorities, well, because at the end of the day, what people are scared of is that if you audit me and you know exactly how much I make, that means the information that you're going to receive might in the future inform policy or the taxes that you're going to be taxing my enterprise, right? So that's why I'm very particular to say, why do they need to be audited?
First of all, when you ask me why companies need to be audited,
okay, not companies, but why the small-scale enterprises? Because I know the mind they do have is that they are afraid to expose exactly what they make, because they know that the authorities that are responsible to enforce the various, aspects are going to use that information to perhaps set a tax for them. And these are small intermediary enterprises. They're not really earning a lot of money. And even the auditors are quite, the fees that they really charge some of these enterprises are quite very high, and they're quite unaffordable.
Okay, that's true. That's really true. But I do understand where you come from when you talk about auditing. Let us be reminded that auditing is not something that is just tax related. It has just been made tax related because most of the small businesses have been evading tax payment, right? And that is why it has been mandatory. But when you look at the concept of auditing, it does involve just evaluating a company's operational and financial operations, right? Operational, we're looking at the workers. Are they delivering to what the expectations are, or their KPIs, right? We've only looked at auditing in a financial aspect because of the tax payment bit, but it is a very broad concept that actually does help an entity regulate its work from top to bottom, yeah? Just that it is inclusive of financial records. Now, let's take out the bit of where financial records are audited. Let's just look at the workers, the operational bit. Are we having the perfect workers to execute the tax required of them, right? And okay, let's look at it now as a broad term, right? When we're looking at auditing, it does really help a company because it secures funding. Let me tell you, even right now when you need an investor, what they're going to ask you, they're going to sit you down and actually do ask you for paperwork, right? How much are you bringing in? How much are you taking out? How much are you saving? You know, that kind of thing. So they are going to want to know the whole procedure and the concepts that you have behind your financial plan as a company. So auditing is one thing that brings you a few steps closer to that. And let's look at just a small base of people who do actually invest. Let's look at the Stanbic incubator, for example, right? These are people who are, when we look at them at the youth level, these are people who are very determined in helping young people get to where they want to be, right? So we see that young people are usually there pitching their businesses, but at the end of the day, they're going to ask you for your paperwork when it comes to just financial records. What do you need? I'm an investor. How are you going to give me back my money in the prescribed time you say that you are? So it does help when it comes to securing funding. And the fact that most small businesses don't have it, there is no that guarantee or that level of trust between the investing person as well as the person on the receiving end. So it does help when it comes to securing funding and ensuring compliance as well as managing growth. The fact that you're continuously evaluating the work of the company throughout all levels, it means that you're going to be able to identify the gaps and eventually fill them in, right? So that is the importance of auditing per se, according to my knowledge. And if most small-scale industries or businesses incorporate it in their operational or day-to-day life, it's going to be able to get us a little bit further from where we are now to where we want to be. But then that is a gap that needs to be bridged. I know that's,
Absolutely. You know, I've been looking at Ugandan. Recently, there is I think it was 2023, where the Uganda Registration Services Bureau did about a huge, I don't remember the actual number, I'll be honest, because I need to be factual on that. But a huge number of companies were deregistered. We are literally put off. And of course, the reasons that were given was that these companies didn't pay, they didn't fulfill their annual return. They didn't file the annual returns. But then, if you zero down to these enterprises that had been shut down, and you try to even measure their worth in terms of annually, how much money do they make? How much money do they spend? Nobody really looks into that. One of the biggest issues here in Uganda is taxation. And most of the business people are crying over the taxations. They're not making the profits they're supposed to make. Why? Because the taxes are quite unfriendly. Now, bring it back to this whole line of auditing. first of all, what is the intention of such initiatives, of saying that, okay, we want small and intermediate enterprises audited? Because I would think for any government, for anything, if you know, because when you're building an economy, sometimes the building stages are never friendly.
Yeah.
And actually the people that are onto that stage of building, or what we call the foundation, it's never fun. It's the people that maybe after some good years that enjoy it. But during that time, you know that it's economic turmoil. So if you're saying that you want the economy to grow, you want the livelihoods of people to grow, then scrap off the taxes. Let people trade. Charge fair taxes, let them accumulate a lot of money. So when the money accumulates a lot, then create inflation, drive the money out of their hands, you know. So that means people will be willing to pay these taxes, knowing that, wow, we really had a chance. But there is not really, it's hardly have we had a chance for Ugandan entrepreneurs, you know, having those joys, those laughters. So I'll bring it back to the auditing perspective. I don't think the small and intermediate enterprises in Uganda are yet ready to look into the direction of auditing. Right now, it's good for them, but right now, I don't feel like they're ready for them.
No, you see, Andrew, I respect where you're coming from, but there is the concept of being ready and actually facing the reality that is there. I think what we need to do as the media or people in this position is to continue preaching the importance of such things, or to even just sensitize the masses about what they need to know. Because if you're telling me that most of our small and intermediary companies do not want to audit, you must be able to give me a reason as to why. Let's take a look at, for example, yesterday, right? There was the Dubai Chambers conference that was happening at Sheraton. And these are people who really invested entrepreneurs who want to push their investments into Uganda, right? And all they wanted was someone to trust. Someone to trust to give their products to what? To distribute them here in Uganda.
Yeah.
And if most firms are not audited, and we're only talking about the tax evasion or just removing taxes, how are they going to be able to grow? They won't be able to grow because, first of all, one of the things that makes it easy for companies to grow faster is through partnerships, right? If you cannot be able to get a partner to trust you, how are you going to be able to grow? Or are we still going to talk and preach about us growing independently and individually when we actually talked about this earlier in the show? So one of the things that we need to do is to continuously educate people, and of course, we won't get into the talk of taxes much because that is a very wide talk, right?
Very true.
But I do believe that if we were to bring it up a little bit, we would ask ourselves that what are taxes and why are we paying them, right? And okay, maybe the business ones, why are we paying them?
Why are we paying
because we need to actually first understand the reason as to why we do some things, and also assess it and compare it to the fact that why shouldn't we do it? Why is it weighing heavily upon us, right?
Yeah.
And that is a conversation for another day. But in order to be able to grow yourself, to seek partnerships, or even to just get some trust of the closest people you have, such as the customers, you need to be able to have some paperwork. And this may not necessarily be to taxpayers, because let's be honest, Andrew, we've talked about this, most of the small scale and intermediary companies, they're actually not registered.
They are not registered.
So
But of course, there are reasons why they're not registered.
Yeah. Okay, there may be reasons as to why they're not registered, but the truth is they're not registered. So it means they're already not paying taxes. So why are they still failing before the third year of the business has reached? Because they actually don't have financial plans. Financial plans that come up through what? Auditing. Auditing that may not necessarily get to URA or the government per se, but it is getting to the managerial team of the what? Of the company. So if they do not have the layout of the money that is coming in and the money that is going out, chances are this company is going to cause its own downfall without reaching the level of auditing. And auditing may look like it is expensive, but if you know someone, you can even get a student at this day and time, right? There are so many graduates there who are looking to practice some of the things that they've learned.
Okay.
And what they may require is a payment of probably 500 Ugandan shillings. Now, for a company that has a long-term business vision, why are you failing to pay someone 500 Ugandan shillings?
Okay.
Because the same person who is refusing to pay it is going to take it out on a for personal use and spend it recklessly on something that won't be important. But getting someone and paying someone for maybe even to just do it for a day, because these days we are living in a gig economy. You can hire someone and all they need to do is every 6 months they do for you some audit work, right? I think that would be something that would help us get to a bigger or larger scope when it comes to maintenance as well as sustainability of these small scale and intermediary companies.
Okay.
Yes, let us not ignore the gap that it will take auditing to cover between sustainability and the growth of small scale and intermediary industries. That's just what I think.
Well, that's an amazing insight for that. Now, just to proceed along with my report here, Badru Bengo, a representative from the Uganda Insurance Association, we shall see that he highlighted a significant gap in adoption of insurance among small business. Many entrepreneurs have faced devastating losses, particularly from the fires and theft, without insurance to mitigate their financial setbacks. The 2021 Kivubo market fire, which destroyed goods worth over 3 billion, left most of the traders without recourse. And we know that such events underline the critical need for robust insurance adoption. However, Uganda's insurance penetration remains at a mere 0.84% of GDP compared to India's, that is 3.96%, just like Fowler had mentioned. And we see that weak regulatory frameworks and limited awareness exacerbate the issue. For instance, many small business owners perceive insurance premiums as unnecessary cost rather than an essential investment. Now, this culture shift requires targeted education campaigns and incentives such as subsidized premiums for the first-time policy holders. By the way, Fowler, talk about, don't you think sometimes the cultural attachments here, like the report says, a culture shift, you know, because some people look at insurance premiums as unnecessary cost.
Yeah, that all.
Is it relating to what I was saying?
Yeah, it is relating to what you're saying, because when you look at culture shifts, it all has something to do with the mindset that we are having to transitioning to these things that are going to help us get to where we need to be. Yeah, that's what I would think. Okay,
but what if we are right to think that way?
That insurance.
The right to think that way, because now taking it back to the taxes.
Okay.
Because we all know that regardless, you know, of the taxes we always collect, Ugandans are failing to really feel the utilization of the taxes they pay. So perhaps it's not just about the culture or the feeling, all the mindset, but it's based on already what is on ground. What do you think about that? What's already on ground? I'm paying the taxes, but the taxes are going to somebody else. They're not heading to where they're supposed to be heading. They're not heading to the ended beneficiaries. If we take a look at it from that line, think with me for a moment. What do you think? Okay.
I'll bring it back to insurance, right? And I would think, in my opinion, that insurance is a financial arrangement between a company and between two companies. One, to pay a premium package, and the other is to deliver protection when it comes to sustainability and continuation of operation of this other company, right? Company A and B. A is the one that is paying a premium package, and B is the one ensuring protection. So let's talk about that fire that we woke up to some day a few years back, that in Achievable Market, where the market got burnt and people lost a lot of money, right? The thing with insurance is that it offers you protection or a place to fall back on when you meet with some hardships along the way in business.
Yeah.
If you're running a company that imports vehicles, for example, and they've reached the border and probably there was a fire and all the cars got spoiled, insurance comes in to back you up. Something that wouldn't have happened if you weren't insured, right?
Yeah.
That would be a total loss. Now, of course, culture shifts is something that would be understandable, or mindset about insurance, because you feel like it is not going to help you. And I'll ask you this on a personal level. Where would they ask you to insure your health? Of course, they don't have the certainty that you're going to get sick, right?
Absolutely.
But at least you have the backup that in case I run into an accident this morning, God forbid, I do not need to take a coin out of my savings or out of my emergency fund, because I know that I probably have Sanlam covering my back, right? And that is exactly why insurance is there. Business, entrepreneurship is all a risk to start with.
Very true.
Right? This is a space you get in and you know that maybe after 3 months, I could have lost everything that I started with, all the money that I put in. But if I directed something towards insurance, let's just look at insurance as a saving mechanism, right? If I did something there, it means that I'm going to have the backup. I'm going to sleep resting, knowing that even though I slept today and I probably woke up and my business dollars caught fire.
Yeah.
Because that is something that commonly happens, right? In this report, we see that it's one of the reasons as to why businesses are failing or something. But if I woke up in the morning, I would know that if my company has gotten burnt, I have someone to fall back on, who is not myself, or relying on some other employee that I have or something like that. So that is the thing about insurance. And it may not necessarily help per se, but like you talk about taxes, but in this situation of insurance, it is an arrangement between you and someone else. And they have to deliver to specifically you. So in case this has not worked, chances are it's going to work.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's wait and see. And now, the Ministry of Commerce has emphasized the importance of quality education and market access for small enterprises. And now this is particularly for the East African community and the African Continental Free Trade area. Now, Uganda's government has actually ramped up efforts to secure the markets for local products, but systematic barriers still persist. A good example is while the government has facilitated the trade fairs to promote Ugandan products, logistical challenges such as high transportation costs and poor infrastructure, they still continue to limit the regional markets. Now, a 2022 survey by the Uganda Bureau of Statistics revealed that 68% of the small businesses cite transportation as a major barrier to trade. Now, without addressing these foundation issues, the promise of expanded markets will definitely remain unfulfilled for many Ugandans. But of course, we know that Uganda can actually draw valuable lessons from countries like India, where small enterprises contribute significantly to economic growth. And now India's Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises Development Act of 2006 provides a robust framework for financing, technology support and market access at the same time. Now, in contrast, Uganda lacks comprehensive policy that is tailored to the unique needs of small businesses. Now, adopting similar legislation could actually provide the structural support necessary to these enterprises to definitely thrive. Now, this is something very major for this country, and the biggest question is going to be in line with how are we going to utilize it? You know, how are we going to embrace it? Now, Uganda's small business sector is at crossroads. On one hand, initiatives like free auditing services and government efforts to secure markets represent progress. On the other hand, systematic challenges such as weak infrastructure, low insurance uptake, and inadequate policy frameworks threaten to undermine these gains. But moreover, the reliance on external markets possesses risks, particularly in an increasingly protectionist global economy. Now, the recent outcry over cheaper Chinese imports flooding the Ugandan market underscores the vulnerability of the local producers as Uganda seeks to integrate into the African Continental Free Trade Area, and of course balancing the market access with the domestic industry protection will definitely be something critical. Now, the path to sustainable growth for Uganda's small businesses requires a multifaceted approach. Now, policymakers must prioritize comprehensive reforms, including robust support for group formation, talking about insurance adoption, talking about market access. Professional bodies like the NAA must ensure that their initiatives are inclusive and address on-the-ground realities. Addressing the on-ground realities. I think, Faldo, you're listening to this point critically. On-ground realities. What is on-ground is different with what we feel is right.
Yeah.
If you tell me that I need an auditor, it may take you to be the very entrepreneur you're trying to explain to why they need auditing, for you to know why they're not having the audit services. It takes you to be them, to know what they go through. On-ground realities. Now, most of these efforts must be driven by a human-centered perspective that is recognizing the resilience and potential of Uganda's entrepreneurs. Now, by addressing the systematic barriers that hinder their growth, Uganda is definitely on the verge to unlock the full potential of its small business sector, driving inclusive economic development for years to come. So that is the call to action. But the most important thing is how have the small enterprises position themselves to take up these opportunities. Now that is something also key here, because if we talk about free auditing services, I think now this still goes back to the mindset perspective.
I think they've not positioned themselves simply. And I would love to ask you actually, why would you think that auditing is not an on-ground?
Why I think it's that way, like I said, the perception behind most of these traders as to why they are afraid of those, it's secrecy. Because they know the kind of a system they are dealing with. It's a system, it's exploitation oriented. Let me say that if the English is right. It's exploitation oriented. So they're afraid that if there is access to what they earn, to what they make, it might actually get back to them in the long run. And they all start to, there won't be a chance for profitability.
Because
and now the
of
fact that,
auditing?
and now the fact,
Because of auditing.
Because of?
Auditing.
Exactly.
Okay.
And the fact that we're heading towards elections, people are quite very sensitive in terms of what information they release out to who and when, for security reasons and some other related factors, of course.
Okay, I would understand that. So let's talk about it in your perspective in relation to small-scale and intermediary businesses positioning themselves for opportunities.
Of course, the first way they could position themselves for such opportunities is, first of all, if they could have a fair annual turnover. We're talking about 100 million, 200 million, at least. Because you need to reach a point that you're sure that the information I'm exposing, even if it's going to inform the policy on taxation, I can actually be able to fulfill it. But what if my information is going to inform a tax policy and I cannot afford that tax?
No, remember now we are looking at on-ground statistics.
Yeah, that is
where
on-ground.
Most small-scale and intermediary businesses are actually not registered, so they are not in position to pay the taxes.
The question is, why are they not registered? Because there are lots of questions. Do you think they want not to be registered?
I would love to think of that as the way in your perspective, the way you explain it, that it is actually a positive advantage per se, because if they are not registered, they're not paying taxes. But we see that they are still not doing what? Attaining this level of growth that they want. they don't have the organizational structure. They don't require to pay auditory fees or anything, and they're just operating. So why are they still failing?
Do you know why? I'll say that because when you understand that, first of all, these businesses, it's an individual, right? So they survive on the individual. If the individual is healthy, the business will run. If the individual is down the next day, that means the business won't be running.
Yeah.
So away from running that business, that individual has other personal expenses. You know, we see the food basket on the others. Because don't review, actually, when you're reviewing a small business in Uganda, don't view it as an enterprise.
Okay.
View it as an individual, because they are individuals. Those businesses depend on individuals. You know, if the individuals don't report to town that day, that business won't run.
Okay.
You know, so all those other personal expenses, talk about the school fees, they have children, they have to pay for all those people. So literally, the money they get in there, literally they spend less for themselves. So, and that is the art of economic slavery. It appeals like you're working, it appeals like you're running business, but when you weigh it down to your personal day-to-day life, you're not able to have a social, you know, or
Social life.
a social life that
Yeah.
is desirable and healthy for a healthy life.
Okay.
Yeah, for all that.
I understand your perspective, Andrew, and that is exactly why we are sitting here today and talking about how to be able to transition from those situations where one has to rely on themselves to run a business through incorporating things such as auditing. Through auditing, you can be able to identify those risks, right? And mitigate through them and be able to come up with a solution as to how you can be able to sustain your business, your small scale business. Looking at someone who is sick, who is going to be your backup, for example. We are not now looking at the financial auditing, we're looking at the internal auditing, right? Who is going to be your backup? So a business, we should be reminded that a business, in order for it to grow, it should be treated independently from the person running it. This is something that also requires energy to be fueled to get to where it's supposed to be, right? And so does the individual. If I am sick today and I want to be able to work tomorrow, who is going to stand in for me? That is what we are looking at when we talk about auditing. I understand that business.
But it's not a reality for people with small enterprises in the informal sector.
It is not a reality. That is why they must make it a reality, because we are not going to sit down here and make excuses as to why small-scale businesses are failing. We are rather going to sit down and give solutions to how they can be able to mitigate those risks that they have at a personal level, right? If you cannot employ someone, if we're looking at small-scale industries, right, or businesses, the people that they are employing require probably a maximum payment daily of, let's say, 10,000 per day. If I am sick for a week, it means that I should be able, if I value my business enough, I must be able to pay someone 70,000 to continuously run this business. Because at the end of the day, this business is what is going to give me the personal expenditures that you are talking about. This one is going to pay for my medical bills. So we need to be able to cut a line, draw a line of differences between the business and the individual, right? That is why we are going to sit here and together preach about the importance of auditing, because at the end of the day, it may come as a burden, but nothing comes easy. Are you going to sit down and give up on your business or the flow that is supposed to go towards because you're not wanting to take the risk? Living a life of not having an audited business is a risk, right? But so is living the life of having it. So which one are you going to take? I would rather take a line of risk where at least at the end of the day I may have to pay taxes, but I'm going to look at the bigger picture. The bigger picture being that I can be able to have solid partnerships that I can trust, right? I can be able to stand and say that I'm going to go and attend this event with my registered business and probably compete for an investor's bid to invest in my business. I can be able to sit and say that I can go to private sector foundation and probably I'm a lady and join Grow and be able to get this money to invest more in my business. I can be able to sit and say that I can be able to take out a business loan because my business is actually registered. And when we look at Uganda's economy, that is one challenge that we are having. The fact that most small businesses are not registered. They cannot be able to legally sign out business loans. And for any business to run, some of the things that support the system of a business or of an economy alone are the banks. But if banks are in a position that is contradicting them with lending money to the masses of the economy, that means that businesses won't grow. And we're of course talking about this while looking at the economy of Kenya, for example. The reason why it is growing is because we saw an article recently, last month, 23 of their banks were being accredited by the government for their initiative of what? Lending out money or financial resources to small-scale business owners, hence leading to their growth and development. But that is not happening here. Why? Because most of the simple steps that are required of us are not taken because most people are scared of paying taxes. People who are not even registered to start with. So let us, everyone is just preaching for. We are picking a leaf from these countries that have already grown, India, Singapore, Malaysia, etc. Countries that were in the same position as we were a few years back, but they've grown. And some of the steps they've taken towards that is embracing this change, right? Keeping ourselves in this box of not wanting to develop because we are scared that the government is going to tax us. The government is going to tax us regardless. Because you may not be taxed directly to your business, but what you're going to get from the goods, someone is going to charge you a fee that includes taxes as well, because they also incurred that tax, right? In order to be able to cover that gap for themselves, they will bring it on you. So it is up to you and your business. What do you want for it? Do you want for it to grow, or you're going to live in this life of fear so your business won't grow and yourself you won't grow? Take the risk, register your business, be able to sign out these loans, grow. Grow. That is what we are looking at. Employ more people, help the economy move towards positive growth and development. But if we keep in this culture shift box that is limiting us to just, many people don't have the ability to access this, they've put so many things in place to help us get there. But we are choosing to put a blind eye. Why? Because we believe we are comfortable enough to run this business alone on a personal basis.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
As we wind this up.
Yeah.
There is something you said, you were asking, comparing the countries where the same growth rate in 1962, and these countries have way far progressed beyond us.
Yeah.
The reason that's why those countries actually developed beyond us, one, I'll say that they adapted the Western ideologies, but the adaptation of the Western ideologies was in the context of their cultures. But surprisingly, for us, we decided to entirely get the context of the European culture, and we think it's the same context of the Ugandan culture. To the extent, those countries actually embraced themselves. Take a look at India, which was colonized more years than Uganda. But when the British left India, they went back to their cultures, traditions. We Ugandans who just got colonized for a few years, we are acting like we want to be the British full time. So are you taking a look at the concept, the context of which we are living our lives in the context of the Western person? Look at China, look at Japan, take a look at them. 99% local content. What do we do here? We are having foreigners controlling the economy. When shall we ever have control? So there are lots of things, because I'll tell you, as Africans, we are not capitalistic. 99% of the economic policies from the Western world have a capitalist perspective, and capitalist is survival for the fittest. In Africa, we are socialist. We live in collective ownership of resources. So that means if we are to design systems for economic growth and development such that we are to reach levels that countries like China, Singapore, all at, yet we are at the same level with them. We need to embrace it. The act of socialism from the African context with policy frameworks regulated within the true blood with tribal lines, inclusive, and so many more with a history. That's what I think. That's when we shall have development. Well, that is it for today's edition of Smart Means Business. Thanks for being part of it. I've been Andrew Barije with Falda Kirabo. But as we sign out, we have something in from the auditors, the people, what the different stakeholders really have to say in relation to what we have been discussing. Till tomorrow, good morning.
Placed where the risk that we think is quite eminent in our business is supposed to be placed. And it's quite possible. It's quite possible. We've seen it. We've seen it in countries like South Africa. We've seen it in countries like India. These countries have rapidly developed because they have aligned. If you're running a business, that business is exposed to a number of risks, right? Risks to do with fire, risks to do with theft, risks to do with even death. We're talking about small-scale businesses which are individual-led. That individual, normally when he passes on, what happens? Largely also the business crumbles. Not so? The businesses we are leading or the businesses we are into are largely individual-led. So it's you, like the way Madam Teacher was saying, that everything is here in the brain. So you are the owner, you are the one who runs the operation, you are the one who does everything. Maybe with the assistance of your wife, and maybe your kid, one or two, or maybe a relative. But you find that without you, what will happen to the business? What will happen? If you are away, if you pass on, the business will collapse. Would you have contributed to the growth, the 10 growth strategy that Madam PSST is talking about? And why would the business collapse? Why? A number of reasons. Yes, why would the business collapse? Why? Why is it that if you die, the business collapses? Should it be like that? Yes. Why? Why would it die? Would you be happy that the business you struggled for, you toiled to get, to be where it was, that when you passed on, now that business is gone? Would you be happy? You wouldn't. You wouldn't be happy. So, for us to contribute towards that, we need to embrace mechanisms that we can be able to take on. All right? There's what we call risks which are eminent in our businesses. These risks would be fire. You've had fire getting a place and everyone is crying. Museveni tuyambe, government tuyambe, government tuyambe. All right? Why? Also, the government has a lot of issues to address. So if your stall has caught fire, largely they can't do much. So we are here before you to tell you that it's possible. You can address some of these concerns. Simply, you don't need to fear insurance. You place your risks to the people who are responsible for handling risks. I'll give you a simple example. Also picking from what Madam PSST has said, that there are quite a number of growth opportunities for small enterprises like us, like Uzia, in this NDP4, in that 10 growth strategy for the economy, which include household to business. So meaning converting households from consumption to business. Even if you're a small household, you can now reduce, or maybe you can reduce and not reduce, but you can also increase your production. For instance, if you're in subsistence agriculture, increase your production towards a bit of commercial agriculture so that you can contribute something to the business. But also businesses also growing too, or business also holding on to the other businesses for them to grow. And this is how it would work. For instance, I'll give you a simple knowledge to relate how I want to put this point right. One of the risks which are associated with small businesses, as she has put it, is individualism. So it's only one person who knows everything and who runs everything, and everything is that person. Now that person has not thought about what would happen if I'm not there. Maybe you may find that if that person goes away, if you get some sort of capital to reinvest in that business, maybe that business can be able to pick up, right? We have designed under this program, which I've told you about, the COVID resilience, recovery and disaster preparedness, we have designed products for MSMEs like you.
Begin attending to brand yourself, to get yourself out, so that we can support you at that level and try to develop business plans for you, try to work with you to develop marketing plans. Because as a ministry, we are concentrating in making sure that, for example, we concentrate and strengthen the Buy Uganda, Build Uganda program. But you find we have a poor attitude towards our own products. We need to build that high up, because the market within alone can be good enough for our businesses to grow. But if you say, where is this product produced? It was produced from Nakawa. Yeah, that one must be a poor one. It's not a good thing. We buy things which come from China, and they are really, I told you, they're also producing them in cottages, but they know where to supply. They have graded their markets. They know in Uganda they can buy these poor products. They have stronger products for another market. They can't take that to a British market, for example, or to the US market. But they say, now we can allow our people to produce, because in Uganda they can buy this level of what? Products. So what I'm trying to say is, we are capable of producing something, but let us, be consistent. Try to emphasize that you are trying to develop a brand of that product that you need, and that we can begin to know that we can promote you to continue upscaling or improving your product, so that you can get market here, and eventually you are capable of going to the EAC market. The EAC market is very big, as you know, since now even DRC has come in. And what we as a ministry are doing is to try to organize our traders to exhibit their products in all these countries. We have just concluded the East African Exhibition Program, and some of these small businesses have managed to showcase some of the products. But you know that is another level. You cannot all do that without having to formalize your business and maintain a minimum standard of records, separate your business from you. The same business as we are talking about, the URA person was saying, or the person from Bank of Uganda was saying, you don't separate your hand from business, where you can have an accounting level for your business to know how much your business is earning. You are using it as your own, cash in the pocket. And at the end of the day, you are not bankable, because you can't track your, your finance experience or financing what? A background. And the bank needs all these things. So we think these are the problems that you have. Informality, you must grow out of informality and get to a level where you can be tracked as a business person. The other ones, of course, people are suffering from workspace. These are common problems for you people who are in processing, value addition. We have gone to the field and we have seen that you really have problems of workspace. That's why we are encouraging all these incubation centers and common user facilities for some of the businesses to come together to enjoy some of those things. Then we are struggling with the quality, quality of products that we are producing. Even in our own local market, we need to work towards building a standard to which we can produce our products. So if you want me to continue explaining, it comes back to you to brainstorm how can we improve all these challenges that we have, because you know them better than me. You are actually facing them on a day-to-day basis.
Some of our services as the Institute. So the Institute, for those who are not aware, is the National Professional Accountancy Organization in Uganda, and it's mandated to prescribe and regulate the accountancy profession, as well as to maintain the conduct of accountants in Uganda. So part of our key functions is to ensure that organizations have professional accountants preparing their books of accounts, and to make sure that those who they employ are actually abiding by the acceptable conduct of accountancy profession. So in that line, we know that most of the small-scale industries have challenges with having professional accountants on board. So with that in mind, we came up with a program which is called the Pro Bono Services Initiative. And in this program, we get industries which have expressed interest in in a specific area of accountancy, maybe taxation or financial management, or just with the normal preparation of financial accounts, and we pair them with our members. We have a register of willing accountants who are ready to provide these services free of charge. So our role is to pair the two, engage them, and then they start work on their own. For us, our role ends at matching the two, and then the two work together to achieve the services they require. So I'm here to call on everyone who has a company that needs professional accountancy services to come to our booth, and we take your details, then you can thereafter match you with one of our members who will be able to help you walk the journey of professional accountancy. Thank you. Oh, and I forgot to mention that this is